Hey legends, this is Magnus. How you doing? Today I have a reaction that is kind of a spur of the moment. So this is from a YouTuber called Sam Does Art with 2 million, close to 2 million subscribers. So he has this video called Pixar is in Big Trouble, Artists Rant. So I wanted to see what he had to say, and apparently it's in regards to Elio. And after I watched it it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'll probably like just show my comment at least at the end. So let's just get straight into it.
What's up, guys? Welcome. So today I want to talk about an interesting topic that I saw recently. Pixar just released a new movie called Elio. Is that how
Sorry
you
for
say
the
it?
delay.
I don't know. But this movie here is making headlines not because of how good it is, but because it had the worst box office opening ever for a Pixar film. So naturally, as an artist, I'm very interested in the animation industry and what's going on here. So I wanted to dive into this a little bit more. Now, one of the consensus here is that it's a marketing related issue, and I would partially agree with this because I personally didn't see one single ad. Someone said
Now, I'm willing to believe that it's true that this wasn't marketed as it should have been. I at least the main reason I knew about it was because I saw the initial opening trailer and teaser and stuff, and every time a new trailer came out, I saw it, so I always knew that this movie was coming, but I could see how others may not.
didn't even know it was out. Where's the marketing? But like I said, I feel like that's only a part of it, and here's where the tea gets a little bit warmer. This movie looks like it was made for Disney Plus, and can Pixar stop using whatever this animation is?
This is the take that I personally disagree with. I like he'll get deeper into this topic. Now, if it was made for Disney Plus, I could believe it if it started production during the pandemic. So I'll have to do research on that, likely in this video.
Which is, of course, in reference to the character design and art style used in this movie. Someone said Nemo, Wally, Toy Story, and Brave all resonated with all audiences.
That that I'd say is a hard take, at least with Brave, because Brave is often forgotten. At least from my perspective, like I like Brave, but I all whenever you're talking about Pixar movies, Wally, Finding Nemo, Toy Story, Cars, those immediately are recognized. But Brave is like that's it's not even a fourth pick for many people.
Because they were more mature in their storytelling and the design. Not
Toy Story 2, I can give you more mature storytelling. Toy Story 3, I can give you that. Toy Story 4, I can give you that. Toy Story 1, and nah.
for real, I'm so tired of this bean mouth tired of bean mouth, Play-Doh, Gumby body animation, regardless of what story is told. What the
Again, that's to me that's a personal take because as he'll give the main example of where it came from, and it's like some people like it, some people don't.
F happened to Pixar's art style, bro? People are tired of this art style. It's lazy, ugly, and devoid of cultural differences between humans. Someone said, I'm so glad this PowerPoint art style will end with this movie. Zero sauce. This was a really funny response to the original post that just says Grubhub perks give you deals on the food you love, which is in reference to a very ugly Grubhub ad, which is titled Delivery Dance, and you can find it on YouTube. Now, funny enough, that aired in 2020,
And of course,
and it
he's
just so
using.
happens that Pixar
Of course, he uses they're using the dislike extension, which is proven to be disloyal. All right, so
started doing this type of style.
all right, Coco, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, onward. I would say Luca, Turning Red, and Elio are the main ones that have the bean mouth art style. I would say so. I would almost say soul, almost mainly for like the souls, and that would be it. Like other than that, like it's more realistic in its art style overall.
After 2020. Maybe they're copying Grubhub. I don't know. Here's a response to that saying, I hate the Steven Universe type style. And
Person, all right, your personal take. 8.
On the left, you see three movies: Elio, Luca, and Turning Red. And honestly, yeah, they do have a very similar type of art style that I personally do not find appealing either. But on the contrary, I do think it looks pretty good in the 2D animation form. The art style is buns. Somebody said, don't even think actually advertising this film would have saved it. The kind of deals that make you boogie. And there's a little clip from the Grubhub ad that people are comparing this movie style to. He looks like he'd fit perfectly in a modern Pixar movie, and I don't know if I should be saddened or humored or both by this fact. Someone said, stop hating on the bean mouth. We love the bean mouth. But you know the problem with that is I think a lot of these bean mouth characters really work
And first off, when it comes to Tater, or
because they are
hopefully
2D
I may need
animations.
to
And you
rewind
probably see this with live action Disney remakes too.
right here with Tater. She doesn't, hers isn't even a bean mouth design. Theirs aren't bean mouth. So whoever this creator is purposefully edited that mouth over it.
But with 2D animations, you can get away with more fun and quirky and spontaneous feeling character designs and story arcs. And that's a big reason why these types of designs really work in 2D animation. But of course, at this point, I thought to myself, this is Twitter, and people on
So
Twitter are
sorry,
probably going
y'all.
to just complain about anything and everything. So I have ventured to some of the other cesspools of the internet where people like to discuss these topics, and behold, more of the same complaints. Tip for Pixar: stop using the same art style. Their style is
Once again, I disagree with this take because that art style, as far as we've seen, has only been used three to four times. It's, and I'll get into it later.
just boring now. It worked in the 2010s, but now we have Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots. I don't think Pixar is used to competition. They got too comfortable. I think even with marketing, people just wouldn't care for this movie. So because I'm nosy and I like to go down these rabbit holes and get all up,
Another one that
people just
like I noticed the cat one they're making did more attention on it than Elio ever did. And I guess he's mentioning the Gato movie that's coming after Hoppers. So
wouldn't care for this movie. So because I'm nosy and I like to go down these rabbit holes and get all up in other people's business, I went and researched the history.
okay, so we have okay, that's 20, that's 22. So that's it, going with onwards. So by now Pixar has at least 25 movies under its catalog. So, and I want to look at the ones that the main ones that have a similar art style between each are typically sequels or franchises. But once again, the main ones that use the bean mouth look are Luca, Turning Red, Elio, and arguably Soul. So three out of at least 25 movies to use this a similar art style where other franchises you stay consistent with their art style once they get a sequel, to me is ridiculous. Or okay, another one you could add is The Good Dinosaur because of Spot's bean mouth. That I can give you. Yes.
Pixar movies from their very first film, which is Toy Story, released in 1995. First of all, that is insane. I can't believe it's been 30 years.
Yep.
What the But here's the thing, from that very first release, Pixar has always been a 3D animation studio. And for 22 years, all the way from 1995 to 2017, from Toy Story to Coco, I don't think anybody ever complained about Pixar being a 3D animation studio and doing 3D animation styles. Now, I'm of the firm belief that the reason we didn't complain about their 3D animation style is because they had genuinely good character designs. Every film was unique. Every character's design was iconic. Think Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc., Lightning McQueen from Cars. I mean, picture the characters from Finding Nemo, from The Incredibles. And Wall-E, how could you ever forget about Wall-E? These characters were designed so differently from each other, and they were so iconic in their appearance. I think people are complaining about the art style not exactly because it's an art style that they've always used for the last 30 years, but because it's actually genuinely gotten worse. They've lost the sauce. Just look at the movie Coco, for example, which I adore, and it came out in 2017. They were so expressive, so animated, and their visual design actually directly reflects the
Agree with that, especially the skeleton designs.
culture of the characters. I personally thought Coco was a fantastic movie, and then from
Okay, hey, hey, correction. 29 movies as of Elio. So between 3 and 5 movies using a similar at least mouth style in 29 movies. That's at least a quarter, and that's not bad.
that point on, from
At least what I'd
2020
argue.
onwards, no pun intended, Pixar gave us the movie Onward. They gave us Soul. They gave us
Onward doesn't have it. Soul, you could see it. You can see it here with this in the Soul designs. You can see it.
Turning Red, Lightyear, Elemental, and in
Lightyear by no means has the beam out style. Inside Out 2, ooh, the only one you could possibly give that to is Anxiety
Inside Out 2. And now, just most recently,
and
we're getting
and
Elio.
Envy.
Now, within those movies that I've just listed, I think the new Pixar style that people are complaining about nowadays began with Luca in 2021, and they kept it going with Turning Red in 2022. And this specific style is what people are responding really negatively to. And I can't blame people for feeling this way, because when I saw the trailers for Luca, for Turning Red, and for Elio, I was just completely not enticed. Someone said, I know it's a kid.
Right? All right, that's you, and understandable. Okay.
Movie, but man, even by those standards, it looks too babyish animation wise. The animation looks unappealing, and unappealing is the perfect word for it, because visually there is just nothing there.
Okay. All right. So to you, it's unappealing. Fine. Is their mouth? The mouth art style for Luca Turning Red and Elio just creeps me out. Okay, that's you. Can't really articulate why by find them deeply off-putting. All right, but there are people who do like these films, and me as an example. And if you look in my history with shorts, and when I speak about these movies, these the personal experience, director experience era of Pixar films touch me deeply.
There for us to latch onto, especially as adults. And one could argue that this is supposed to be a kids' movie, so why do we care about it? But what
And then that's another thing. When it's animation, it's immediately thought of as a kids movie, for better or for worse.
I've noticed, especially with animated films, is that a really good classic animation doesn't just entertain kids. It also makes parents want to take their kids so they have an excuse to see that movie. Think, for example, the Spider-Verse movies, or even Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is, again, a fantastic movie. So you guys can let me know what you think about this too in the comments, but at the end of the day, I think the monumental flop of this new Pixar IP is probably due to a wide variety of reasons, like no marketing, everything now being on Disney Plus, so people have less incentive to.
I'll give him that very much too. I'll give him that point too, because the way the pandemic went about, and Pixar putting their films, about to say Elio, Soul, Luca, Turning Red, on Disney Plus, that hurt Pixar as a brand overall. All because then people got used to Pixar being a streaming movie company.
Actually
got
go
used
see
to
this
it.
in theaters, as well as a serious lack of visual appeal. If you look at
Look, okay, maybe he's not into sci-fi. Maybe he's not into sci-fi or aliens. But at least looking at the poster, if you're talking about no character designs, I said this in my reaction, with if I believe I made a video and at least shorts. I made shorts of what I love about Elio is the alien character designs. each of these, the ones that stand out, they are not just humans with different looking eyes and skin. These went out there in the designs. What do you mean? At least to me.
See things in theaters, as well as a serious lack of visual appeal. If you look at something like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, you can clearly see that the character designs are simple and their silhouette.
I'll agree to that. Now, I'll also counter that point with something else DreamWorks at least made with Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Would you also please compare those character designs to some of Pixar's designs as well?
Are very intentional. There's a level of anthropomorphication here that makes these characters really resonate with the viewer. Take something like Arcane, for example. You're getting a much more realistic style for each character. You're getting something a lot more
right, because admittedly Arcane is for a older audience, so you could go deeper into things, and all the better for it.
complex as well, but each character still remains simple and iconic in their own theme. With teal hair and purple shorts, you can immediately recognize Jinx. Even in Coco, Miguel with his guitar and all the skeleton motifs that you see in that movie, it's iconic. And it's simple, it's straightforward, it knows exactly what it wants to be. The same thing could be said for the character designs from WALL-E, from Toy Story, from Finding Nemo. But now, if we just turn our attention back to the films Elio, Turning Red, and Luca, and we completely ignore the stories and just look at the visual appeal of the characters, there is clearly something lacking here.
So here's my biggest problem, and once we get to by the end of the video, I'll elaborate on what I mean. He uses these three images. Now, the Elio one, my main gripe is that it's of course a close-up shot of Elio's face and not his full body model. But I'll let that go. It's Mei, Alberto, and Luca where I have the biggest issue of how he frames these characters. So let me just continue so you understand the full thing.
I mean, you can compare these characters to some of the older characters that Pixar used to make, like maybe think about the movie Up, Carl, Russell, Charles. You could.
Okay, so hopefully, if hopefully my image is not in the way, but I mainly want to use Carl Fredricksen as the main example here. So he so sorry, SamDoesArts. I don't want to say the name wrong. He specifically he had to look up these images for Carl Fredricksen, Russell, and Charles Muntz. He had to specifically look up these characters to get these images, and I know he also had to look up each of these movies to get its characters. However, the two that he uses for Mei and Alberto and Luca, to me, feels disingenuous for the point he's trying to make.
Argue that it's a very similar type of polished 3D animation style, but what sets up apart from these post-2020 Pixar movies is the character designs, right? Carl is so distinct. You can recognize him anywhere. And then you have Russell with the funniest proportions, just a cute, cuddly little dumpling kid. I mean, even Doug, you can tell these characters are designed extremely skillfully in a way that makes them instantly recognizable just by a silhouette. Now let's look at Elio. Let's look at Turning Red. Let's look at Luca. These characters.
Now, he gave Elio, he got a second look of him. Now, I'll take away the color and give a good look at him. Yes, I can see how one could forget what he looks like because is one, how the cape looks. The cape takes up a majority of his face, a majority of his body. But I would at least think that the way his head and hair is recognizable. And at least looking especially at the face, the eye patch is an easy giveaway of who he is. Mei, the problem is that he specifically uses this one image of Mei at the beginning of the film. And he only once later on in this video does he use her red hair. He never brings up her panda design. And then for Alberto and Luca, he never brings up their sea monster designs. And once we're finished with the video, I'm going to look up each of the movies and see how fast I can find Mei Mei's red hair and panda design, and then Luca and Alberto's sea monster designs.
Characters, if I were to black them out and just hand you all of their silhouettes on a platter, you would not be able to know who's who. And not even.
Yes, you could, but I would argue one, because one big difference is how Luca has a more circle shaped head, where Alberto has a more oval shaped head, and the way their hair is made. I would argue.
Just the silhouette. If you look at the features of these characters and take in their design as a whole, there is a clear lack of creativity, especially when you compare it to some of Pixar's older films. I'm not gonna lie, and this might just be my personal opinion, but when I see an image like this of the character Elio, this does not entice me to go see this movie at all. Not a single cell in my body wants to move my ass off this seat and head to the theaters for this. What is that on his head?
Now, he asks, what is this on his head? To me, anyone who's into sci-fi and aliens at least knows immediately what this is. This is an equivalent of a tinfoil hat. This is one of a makeshift DIY mind probe helmets. It's something that any science nerd has made a variant of at some point in their life.
Why does he have spoons and forks on?
This is a self-made, creatively made cape. And to me, sure, maybe some kids don't make capes, but you've at least seen young kids make artistic projects. So the fact that you're dissing on a kid being artistic and creative and expressive is crazy to me.
His shoulder plates. From an artist's perspective, this just feels like a design that didn't know exactly what it wanted to be, so it just became everything. Same thing with May from Turning Red. Now completely.
This is the only other image he shows of Mei Mei. This is the only other image he uses. And again, sure, or black it out. If you recognize Mei Mei's hair, you can identify her. But sure, or the way she stands, she could be forgettable. But I'd also argue that previous films could also do the same thing. Like, what if you, for example, if we want to use the same thing he argues with, if you want to black out some of the characters in some of the Wall-E captains before the captain we get in the film, you could easily forget which captain is who. One big reason that the humans in Wall-E looks so memorable is because of the bone loss or fat that they have.
Ignoring the story and everything, when I saw the trailer, the most exciting thing that I saw was the CN Tower in Toronto.
So he must like this. That had to have come from one of either the official trailer or the second official trailer, because the teaser trailer that came out, I remember it clear as day. It's the one where you find out about her panda form from the embarrassing moment during the quadratic formula when Mei Mei's mom is outside. That was the teaser trailer, and at least to me, that hooked me on the film immediately. So the only thing that hooked him was Toronto, and that's fine.
An Asian person, I find no part of this character's design resonating with me whatsoever. It's just generic, for the lack of a better term.
Again, okay, I can understand that. I can respect that. It's just of how it's just, and I'll admit I'm wrong right now because he also shows this image. But notice how he's never shown Mei Mei's panda design, and I would argue that the panda design was advertised more than her human design ever was. And
Character's design
still
resonating
is.
with me whatsoever. It's just generic, for the lack of a better term. I mean, the costume feels generic to me. The proportions feel generic to me. It
Wrong again. Okay, wrong again. Shows that nice lineup of the gang.
pains me to say this because I used to always look up to Pixar for inspiration. Pixar was always known to push proportions. You know, they make these iconic character designs like you see in The Incredibles, right? Just think of the silhouette, right? You know exactly what
And I know exactly what you mean.
Edna looks like because she's got such a striking silhouette and it's something that
Absolutely.
ties to and matches her personality just perfectly. Now, it is my sincerest hope that Pixar's is
I at least have a question for him. I have a question for him. So he uses the difference of silhouettes. If you take Mr. Incredible before he, like during his retirement years when he's just trying to be an average citizen versus when he's Mr. Incredible, you can see a difference of how they show his character design off. And that's the importance of two characters in different of a character in two different situations. If you now do that same thing, at least to me, with Maymay Maymay in her panda form, or Alberto and Luca in their sea monster form, you see a even clearer difference. It's so using strictly one character design that one wasn't the fullest selling point of or advertised point of the film, to me comes across as disingenuous.
studio can bounce back from this monumental failure. The people online have spoken, and this is clearly just not
And again, okay, you've proven, yes, there are people who don't like this design, but there are also people who do.
something that's working for Pixar. Anyways, guys, so I don't know what's happening right now, but Disney, Pixar, they're not doing well. And I hope this is not a signal of the end of days for these animation studios because Pixar and Disney have given me some of my best childhood memories. You know, these movies meant a lot to me when I was growing up. And I would love nothing more than for kids today to grow up having these amazing pieces of media like we did when we grew up.
And I'd argue we do, because I remember when Turning Red was coming out, first everybody hated it because it was a teenage girl led film and it was going to at least talk about menstruation. And many people had a problem with that. I didn't see why. And then after seeing the film film, it touched one, people of immigrant parents, along with Elemental. Well, so, and I liked it because it reminded me bits of my childhood with my best friends, and it helped me like understand values in friendships, like being accepting of one another, loving each other regardless. And Luca, if you've seen my shorts, or if not, I'll probably have to link those shorts because I made them in a Snapchat or Instagram reel. So for Luca, that one touched me to the point of tears because it reminded me of my childhood and childhood friends that pushed me to be more, or where many of who I am is because of them. And yeah, so it touched me in that way. Lightyear, a very 50-50 pick for many people, is is depending on the day my favorite Pixar film of all time, as I stated in my tier list video. Oh, because I'm a big Buzz Lightyear fan. And then with the Elio is my personal Lilo and Stitch. I love it. I love it that much.
But so far, right now, post 2020, Pixar is not looking too hot, guys, and I hope they can turn this around. Anyways, guys, please let me know in the comments what you guys think, whether you agree or disagree with the people online, and whether you agree or disagree with me. Please leave some very harsh words and start some fights in the comments section. I would love for you to do that. Anyways, guys, check out my Patreon for monthly tutorials where you can improve your art, and I will see you guys on the next video, but only if you subscribe. Because if you don't subscribe and you just leave, we will say goodbye forever. And that would make me so sad, almost as sad as Pixar's post 2020 movie lineup.
So let me discuss what. All right, let me address this point. All right. So let's take a look at Turning Red character design. Right off the bat, at least from Google, right off the bat, the third and fourth image is of May's panda, and then we see a few more concept designs of May. We see her friend group. Ooh, that's a nice one. Like it's immediate. Like you immediately can see May's panda design and her red hair look. Let me just look up Turning Red. Even more so, immediately off the bat, May's red hair. Here's the black hair that this is the one that SamDoesArts used, which again that's fifth the fifth image on the screen. The rest of this is of May's panda design in straight up front. So to me, it would be impossible to look up this film and to not see May's panda design at all. And to only use her black hair and certain images of her red hair design. Heck, even this one right here, even this standing image of her to me just came across as a bit disingenuous. And mainly because of the Carl Fredrickson and Russell and Charles Muntz examples that he gave. Because if I want to find, let's look up. All right, we immediately see Russell, we immediately see Carl. Oh, then let's say this is probably the 30th. Let's say the 30th image here is Carl's child design. And if I wanted to use this as an example of the character design in up, I'd have to specifically look for it, right? Which is why now before that, let's look at Luca. Main poster image, you see the bottom half of their characters with their sea monster tail and Luca's parents. It's a still image. Okay, here's a still image of Luca. I would say at least black out the image, black it out by the way of their hair and body look. You could say, hey, this you can recognize Luca, and even more so, you could recognize Alberto because of how his character design is. Then, like, it's very hard to see them without their monster designs. And then if I say strictly human designs, even when I specifically look for human designs, I still get the sea monster looks. So to say that Luca, Elio, Turning Red are completely derived of creativity is just to me offensive. And honestly, I would say a blatant lie. So let me just show my comment and comment from here. So you blatantly ignore May's red panda design, which was advertised way more than her human design. You focus only on her base design at the start of the film, which is the equivalent of using Carl Fredrickson's child or young adult design as base for comparison. You also ignore Luca and Alberto's sea monster designs, which again was advertised more than their human designs, and if not more, equal. They were equally advertised. From my perspective, you're being disingenuous because it is impossible to look up Turning Red or Luca and not seeing their non-human designs. Then I would say, what about Lightyear, Soul, Elemental, Inside Out 2, in terms of character designs? Because these weren't Luca and Turning Red was back to back, but with Elio, Inside Out, and Elemental came out before that. So well, to say it was a streak is untrue. And if people, and my argument was also, if people hate the bean mouth style, DreamWorks, the bad guys, uses that style for its humans. It uses it for Piranha. It uses it for Tarantula. It uses it at certain angles with Fox. I mean Wolf. Sorry, Wolf. Like it uses it and Diane at certain angles, and especially with Shark. Like it uses bead mouth with them as well. Oh, but I haven't seen a single person bring it up with the bad guys specifically. So, at least to me, at least to me, this video came across as a bit disingenuous. It's, but I could be wrong. Um, but let's look at. Let's see. Nah. Okay. Let me look at each of these. Yeah, let me see if I can get images as well. All right. Okay, so 20, 26, and by now it's 25, 29. Toy Story, Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, Wally, Up, Toy Story 3, Cars 2, Brave, Monsters University, Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, Finding Dory, Cars 3, Coco, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, Onward, Soul, Luca, Turning Red, Lightyear, Elemental came out in 2023. Elemental came out in 2023. Elio is 2025. Right? And I know I'm missing one. I'm missing something. Turning Red, Lucas, Soul, Inside Out 2. So that makes 29 films released. So, let me see. Hold on. Good, the good dinosaur spot. Okay, let's see. Let me see. Somewhat. I could see it, but it seems to be at certain certain angles, and when he makes certain facial expressions, does he ever have the bean mouth look? Somewhat like this one. So to say, so like three or four films out of a lineup of 29 films overall. Oh, if anything, if you want to call it a trend, it may be a small one. And then let hold on. Let's look at hoppers. Let's see what hoppers looks like. Then elemental. You can't, if you want to say elemental doesn't have dynamic character design, I don't know what to tell you, because these are dynamic. Like saying that Pixar used to push character designs. This is an example of that, using actual like elements as characters, and then again the alien designs in Elio. I especially love the Hylergians like Glorden. All right, let me take this one out. All right, hoppers. Because those who have it's taking too long. For those who've seen Elio in theaters, it does have a, like, there's a teaser at the end and teasing this movie. All right, let me make sure I see. I could possibly see the beam mouth being used with characters like the beaver design, specifically from this main image. If you want to use that, then let's see. Coco 2 comes out. Incredibles 3, and Toy Story 5. So at least, like, to me, the bean mouth of debacle to me, like, to me, is those who don't like the art style, which is fine, and but also those as known on X Twitter as blowing things out of proportion. Now, Gato, coming in 2028, I would say. It's about a cat, and we'll deal with almost like an Italian cat mafia, which will be interesting to see. So, I don't know what style they'll use for that. I wouldn't be surprised if they go with the same one as Luca, but hey, anything's possible. So that's at least my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents on this, because this are the video at least rubbed me the wrong way because of how Sam specifically used for Mei, Alberto, and Luca, as I stated multiple times in this video, the same image. The way he used the same image every time. Or the same image a majority of the time. And I know I'm in the minority of disagreeing with this take, but I just think it came across as disingenuous. So, what do you legends think? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Please comment, like, subscribe, share this video. Hope you enjoyed it. React to my madness. I'll see you in the next video. I'll see y'all later.